everyone. Today we are talking about creating a spiritual business and business mindset, and I'm just gonna invite Bobbi on. Just give us 1 second. I cannot type and look at this at the same time. All right, so I've just invited her to the live. I'm so excited to be chatting with you about this today. Amazing. Just gonna add Bobbi in. It's taking a second to think about it. Hi!
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's so nice to see you.
You too. It's been a minute.
I know, it's been a little while. I feel like a lot of...
Mhm. How's your
Sorry, say it again?
How's your new apartment?
It's good. I feel like... Yeah, because I just moved in the last time I saw you. So,
Hmm.
yeah, oh my God. I feel like it's gone by so quickly.
Well, I think that's a good thing. That means you like it.
Yeah, definitely. I think just with university and everything all together, I just feel like the last 4 months have just been a whirlwind. And now I'm just I get a second to actually pause. And then now we've gone into a 3-day lockdown for
Mm.
some reason. So now I'm well, now I get a lot of time to be at home. But
Yeah, I heard that you guys are going into another lockdown. There's a couple of other Australian friends that I have that were talking about that. I didn't expect to hear that.
I think it's silly because 4 people have COVID in the whole country of 30 million people. So I'm not really sure what the idea behind it was, but here we are.
Well, I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad you love your apartment. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So do you want to start off by telling everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Bobbi. I run the Sacred Spiral Academy, and we have a couple of different wings. One wing is working with heart-based entrepreneurs. I call them spiritualpreneurs, and then the other wing is working to certify energy healers in an intensive training kind of environment. So I kind of toggle between the two. I'm going to be introducing some horsey stuff in there because we all know how much I love my horses. But
Yeah.
those are my big projects right now.
Yeah. And do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what was your life and business like before you did 90-day alignment
Mm.
accelerate?
So my business itself was, I think by other people's standards, very successful. And I say it that way because I felt off. And I remember our first conversation, I said, look, it's not so much the business part that I need help with. I need help with what's holding me back from showing up the way that I want to show up. And I think I worded it something like, I can feel her in there. I can't seem to embody her, something like that. I don't remember my exact words. So business was great, but I did not feel like myself in that success, which is so counterintuitive because a lot of people associate, well, success must mean that, you're good with yourself, you're good with life, whatever. And for me, it kind of felt like I was getting trapped in it. And so I came to you in wanting to find myself in what I had created.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because I think so much of the time when we're building a business, we're okay, I'm going to feel good when, and then
Mhm.
we that point and we're well, why doesn't it feel like I thought it would? I went through a similar thing with photography. I was hitting all my goals and I was I just don't feel happy. I thought that this was what was going to make me happy and it's not. So then you're kind of well, now what?
Well, I know you asked me about pre 90-day accelerator, but even now I'm using those tools. So, I got pneumonia, which I had told you about. And then through a series of testing, they found cancer. So I just had surgery to get the cancer out. And I'm using the same tools in that, okay, when I reemerge back into my business, where do I, who and where do I want to be? Because this is such a cool opportunity to clean the slate and to decide who I am after all this has happened and how I want to manifest that. Because the success, in my opinion, when you're passionate about something is relatively inevitable as long as you're willing to work for it. But feeling fulfilled you have to feel embodied in that. And so the tools that you gave me, specifically the recordings, which I'm a huge nerd about, and my husband will ask me now, he's like, Bobbi, have you done your recordings? Were you doing your recordings just now? Have you done your recordings lately? They're just huge. They're game changers.
I love that. And what were like your big goals and motivation at the time?
Pre or when I signed up for 90-day accelerator.
Before and when you signed up for it?
It was a journey mostly of self. And I also, so a journey of self, but I also wanted to feel like I was enjoying my business and my life. And I also wanted to feel like I was worthy of it. That was a big one that we worked on. As we worked together, a goal became the anxiety, to minimize the anxiety. And I'm happy to say I experience no anxiety now. Between recordings and the treatment that I had for the cancer, thyroid is not thyroid, anxiety is totally gone, which has never happened in my whole life. But you were the one that gave me that first inkling of.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good. So it went black. So I'm like, oh crap. Okay, where did I leave off?
About not feeling the anxiety anymore.
Oh yes. So you were the first person. That still is a mind-blowing session that we did. Because I expected, during the actual session to have a lot of resistance, but the second we started to release it, I don't know if you remember this because I'm sure you work with lots of people, but there was like this instant relief when it was, okay, does it want to go now? So it was just freaking phenomenal, all of it.
Yeah, and I think it's like one of the things that people don't realize is so much of it is tied to like your self-worth. Like I think so much of the time when we're growing a business, we're like, okay, I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do this. And then even another anxiety that I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel is like when things are going so good, they're like, okay, well, when is the other shoe going to drop? Like this can't last. And then that creates anxiety even when you reach the success you want because you're like, well, what if it all goes away tomorrow?
I think that was the last bit we worked on was this belief that there's going to be another shoe that drops. That you can only be so successful for so long until something, is going to happen. And so that one surprised me too, actually, this lack of feeling safe in the world. There's just so much living in there and playing behind the scenes that we don't even realize until we give it a microphone. But we have to.
Yeah, oh my God, 100%. And I always say, like, with a lot of the fears or the beliefs, it's like they almost just want to be heard. And so, like, once you give them the floor and, like, let them kind of play out whatever they need to play out, then it seems to dissipate. But we put so much energy and resistance into, like, pushing it down and being like, I'm not going to have this fear. And then that almost exacerbates it.
Yes. And, I logically know because I teach it and help people process it that fears and shame thrive in the dark corners of our brain. And the second we put a light on it, that's when things start to heal and shift. And I think what you do is a really cool tool to do that. Because I have a lot of tools in my toolbox. And for these particular set of things, what I've mentioned already, I was always amazed at how our sessions got to the core of it. And, every time afterwards, I'm like, whoa, what just happened? Like after every one. And then I was seeing immediate results the next day. I think I was sending you boxers like, okay, you're never going to believe what happened. And that was every single time. And then, then life would adjust to this new kind of normal. And it's extraordinary. I love it.
Yay, that makes me so happy. What did you feel like you had tried in the past that maybe didn't work?
So I work in the world of, meditation, energy work, and tapping, kind of all energetic basis things. I have a science mind, so I knew that the whole in a lot of the things that I was doing was addressing the brain and the way the brain influences our neural system and everything else. And so I feel like combining my work, which is very energy based, with something like what you're doing, uh, gave like this perfect cocktail of healing. Because my brain needed, and the thoughts needed to be addressed more directly than what I was doing. But combining the two was perfect.
Yeah, I love that. And how did you actually come to find 90-Day Online Accelerator?
I don't even remember, honestly. I think I started following you, and then I was all about your vibe.
Yeah.
And oh no, you had given me a card reading. That's what it, and I think two actually. And I'm like, holy shit, this woman, I'm sorry, I don't know if you want me to swear. Holy crap, this woman is like reading my soul right now. Because I started as a reader. So anytime that I feel that something from someone that gives a really phenomenal high integrity reading, like I'm all about them. And then I started following you some more, and then you're just amazing. And then you were doing this thing. I'm like, oh, well, I have to do this because she's amazing.
Aw, thank you. And like, what was the experience of going through 90-Day Alignment Accelerator like for you?
Let me find some good words here because I feel like it's a whirlwind, but not in a bad way. So the sessions are panned out rather nicely in that, you know, we have a conversation beforehand, and that kind of got the wheels turning, but then having the actual session itself with the hypnosis, uh, and then I mean, for the next 3 to 4 weeks, life just changes. And so you're in this constant state of, holy crap, or man, did that just happen? Wait a second, I just did that with Kim. And so you're constantly going through these cycles during it that are life changing. And I mean, obviously, your own stuff to process as it comes up too. But yeah, maybe not whirlwind is the right word, cycles of awe. That's what I'm going to go with. That sounds like it fits you.
I love that so much. And like, what did you feel like you learned the most from the program, or like, what was your big takeaway from it?
Belief in myself uh, and a sense of safety and success. So, if in hindsight, I think my feeling when I started that I didn't feel like I matched my business or that I was able to show up fully came down to feeling safe to be in my business and to experience the success and the things that came with it. So maybe it's worth, maybe that is a better way to summarize that, feeling worthy of the success and the work that I've done. And that certainly has helped in the last 3 months too. When a whirlwind in my own life happens, pre me would have been an anxious mess, probably in the fetal position. And now it's like, I got it. Like things are changing, but I can handle this how I want to handle it in a way that's going to feel yummy to me, and I deserve that. Uh,
Yeah.
which I get goosebumps saying that because that would not have been my statement pre 90-Day Accelerator.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's so funny because, like, so many people they come into the program and they sort of see how it's laid out and they're like, "Oh, okay, self-worth, but I like really want to work on these other things." And I'm like,
Mhm.
you don't understand how until you get this part right, like the rest of it doesn't matter. Like you have to feel worthy and deserving of everything you want. And then that even creates a sense of safety within yourself. And I think people kind of throw that out the window how important it is because entrepreneurship such a roller coaster. And when you feel safe within yourself, you're able to like kind of go through that and not be reactive because you know that you're worthy of what you want. And that part isn't like undercutting it in the background, making you be like, should I even be an entrepreneur?
Right.
So it's like, it makes such a difference to everything, not just business.
Knowing you're worthy of what you want, when that's solid, everything else is figure outable because so many doors open. You're no longer questioning yourself. And like,
Yeah.
sound like everything just magically goes away, but that nagging voice in your head becomes like not even a whisper compared to the I deserve what I know I want, so let me build that. But all the logistical things are the easy part, building the business and uh, creating the course, create whatever it is you do. But the knowing who you want to be showing up to that's where it's all got to come from for the rest of this stuff to work, not the other way around. least in my opinion.
No, I think so too, because I think so much of the time we think it's like the strategy of what we do is what's going to build the business, but it's really like who we're being when we take those steps that determine like what will come out of it. Because like I always tell people, you can give two people the same strategy and they're going to get wildly different results based on
Right.
what they do about themselves. So it's like that has to shift first before you take any action.
Exactly. And I think once you experience it, at least once, the let me shift something internally, and then you get something more tangible for your brain to hold on to, then you trust that process a little bit more. But it can be challenging in the beginning to say, you want me to work on my self-worth in order for me to make more money? I don't
Yeah.
like they're 100% connected, but I get how people also have to experience that. So I am the testament, as I know you had your own experiences, that you do the self work first on a deep level, not a superficial level. The rest is easy.
Yeah. It's so true because I remember like even the first time I did RTT, I had no idea what was going to happen, but I was just like at that point where I was like, I'm willing to try whatever comes my way. Like I just want my work and I feel like I'm doing all the things, but it's not working the way I want it to. And then even like you said, in the next days after that RTT session, I was like, my business is completely different and I have
Mhm.
not outwardly different. And that was really like the light bulb moment for me where I was like, oh, it's not what you're doing, it's like what you believe.
And I honestly believe so. It was 90-day accelerator, then it was the pneumonia, then it was surgery, and now we're here. Honestly, I think that is the universe just giving me opportunity to redesign based on the work that you and I did together. Because there's so much that I'm changing in my life and in my business based on how I want my life to look. That those things combined, because, okay, the only other thing I needed to address was how I don't take breaks. And that the universe handed me a mandatory 3-month break. But that, and then encountered the worthiness that we worked on, it's impossible to get out of a situation like that and be like, when I go back to my life as it was I actually enjoying myself? Because I'm pretty sure that there were things there that I can shift, and I'm 100% sure I get to do whatever I want and make it successful and enjoy it. So what's missing? I just see the whole progression of how it all worked out, and it's so freaking cool.
Yeah, totally. Because I think I remember this was something that we were working on a lot is like trying to find the balance between like working and like filling up your own cup so you weren't feeling like tired, like doing all the other things that you needed to do. And I think a lot of people experience that where it's like it's so easy to just get lost in working in your business all the time, but like the business actually benefits from you resting and taking time for yourself. And like we need to reframe what work looks like because that's technically work as well.
Mhm. Well, and when worthiness isn't in question, when your productivity is not tied to your worthiness, that becomes a totally different situation. But if we have our worth tied up in our success or if we're good enough, at least I can only speak for myself, but then of course we're working ourselves stupid because we're trying to prove we're worthy of whatever it is we're in pursuit of. But when we know just existing with our brilliant ideas and our brilliant persons, then of course we're going to rest because then we know we're worthy of that and we don't have to prove anything to get worth.
Yeah, oh my God, 100%. And what do you feel like were the biggest results that you experienced out of 90-day Alignment Accelerator?
The anxiety was the big one because that was a challenge that I had on and off, but for all intents and purposes, consistent in different intensities throughout my life. And it had been getting particularly bad when I worked with you, and for a variety of reasons. But I really didn't think, I believed, because that was towards the end of us working together, that that was a thing that could help.
Yeah.
But knowing the work we did together, knowing it was probably going to shift a little bit, I didn't expect for it to be as, I hate to use this word, but instantaneous and intense as it was. It was like to the point where my husband made a comment. And that's why he got all on board for your recordings because he noticed the next day and the day after, he's like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I am Superwoman. Don't you mind?" But it was cool to see that release and what was hanging out underneath that. And then to have the last little bit, the biological piece. And I'm a big believer that, any of the challenges we face probably have different pieces to it. But, I think that had to be the first thing, the work that you and I did together. And, for me to now say that I don't experience any anxiety, and I haven't, blows my freaking mind. And so, yes, I appreciate the worthiness because that's helped me through the last couple of months. And, the other work that we did and you poking me to not work so much. But the anxiety and the things that it was repressing and those coming out, that is the thing that I'll remember most. And my husband asking me who I was. So I got an opportunity to say I'm Superwoman and actually mean it.
Totally. I love that. I think that's one of like the incredible things about like RTT is like it's like you get to peel back the layers of like all the conditioning that have like built up over a lifetime and like find the person that you are underneath that, and then you actually feel like free to go and be that person because you don't have like all these. I always imagine it in my head as like you're inside like this wall of bricks, and every time we like pull some of those bricks down, and then the wall comes down like slowly a bit at a time.
That's what it feels like. But I also think that's the bricks and taking out the bricks, everything that I think traditional business owners want. So the money, the success, the fame, whatever it is you're looking for, more followers, that's all behind the bricks. So like you can't go and suddenly put your hand through the wall and grab everything you want.
It's so true.
Ish, it was that easy to be like, I have problems, but whatever. Here, let me just buy all of those.
Oh my God, 100.
Those a microphone for, I mean, what? The recordings are 15, 20 minutes. So we're not talking about an obnoxious amount of time here. But if we give the time to it, like who wouldn't want to have a doorway into everything you want because you've taken out all the bricks. Like who wouldn't want that? And we talked a lot about how people don't understand hypnosis and the power of it. And I was one of them, but like, this is also my line of work where, I knew that was a tool. So I had a basic understanding. But what I don't think people realize is that it works on an energetic and biological level. I think that's why it's so powerful because your brain is going to respond to it, your subconscious, which reminds me that you're in school and I still want to know how that's going to. And on top of the energetics of it, like it is this perfect cocktail to shift every part of your being. And I have to imagine that some people be really afraid to sign up for any sort of hypnosis thing. One, at least I hear this from friends, thinking that you're going to mind control them. Like, yeah, that's not a thing. Although it's floaty a couple times. I remember feeling like, am I still in my chair? Like, am I just floating up to the ceiling? I feel like tell me if I am, so I'm probably not. But the fact that your brain gets on board with what you're trying to do energetically, that's why things happen so quickly. And it's like, can you put a price tag on that? How do you put a price tag on me not experiencing anxiety anymore? Because that in turn changes everything in my life. And can you put a price tag on feeling worthy for everything that you want and therefore going to drive towards it in a really authentic way? I don't think you can, but I don't think people realize that that's what happens when you do a hypnosis kind of treatment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, treatment's my word. Session is your word.
It's so true because it's like people think that hypnosis is mind control, and I'm like, well, okay, hypothetically speaking, let's say that I actually can control what other people can do, which I absolutely can't. It's just suggestions, and you always have a choice to go along with it or to not go along with it. But like all hypnotherapists would be millionaires then, because we'd be like, oh, well, let's just add a couple of zeros onto that voice, or like, I'm gonna just put in your recording that you want to give me a Lamborghini. Like it just like it wouldn't fit. Like it doesn't like that. It's just like a highly suggestible state. So for anyone listening, it's like I can't control your mind. I can't. make you do anything you don't already want to do. It's just suggestions. And like when you're hypnotized, you're just in a highly suggestible state. But at the end of the day, you still have free will. Like I can't make people do anything they don't want to do if they don't want to do it, which is something I wish people knew more.
And when you're saying suggestible, I just want to clarify that from someone who's experienced it. Suggestible does not mean you're making people do things that they don't want to do. Suggestible means, at least from my experience, I'm assuming it's what you intend, knowing you, that the active brain that we work with, the one that's overthinking or overanalyzing or putting up blocks for us, gets put aside. It is you suggest it to be put aside so that you can get to all the yummy subconscious stuff. Because when we were in session, it felt a lot like me observing the words that were coming out of my mouth, but I wasn't consciously like formulating sentences because my thinking brain was out of the way. The subconscious was forward, and you suggested my brain to do that so that it could heal. I just want to clarify that because I feel like the word suggestible could be scary to some people.
Totally. Yeah, and I always say like all hypnosis at the end of the day is self-hypnosis. Like I'm sitting there tinkering actually with your brain and you're not doing anything that you don't want to do. Like I'm just saying things out loud and you're the one who's actually doing them. So I think that always kind of sets people at ease because I'm like, okay, well, I can tell you this, but it's ultimately on you to decide whether you go along with it or not. And it's like, yeah, I think it's like such an important distinction for people to make. It's like the only thing we're getting you to do is the things that you want to do. And it's like your subconscious is always there running the show anyways. We're just not aware of it. And when we get the conscious mind to sort of just step aside for a second, we can actually access that thing that's always going on. We just don't normally have the tools to access it.
And for a business owner, and I'm not sure if you particularly target business owners for this or not, but for business owners, this is the single most important thing for us to do. And, I know that from working with my students and through my own process, but finding the right tool for the thing that you're trying to shift is going to help you with success more than anything else. So just from a business perspective too, because like I said, I have that very logical mind as well. I can see some people going, well, I can't spend money on that because, it's not directly related to business. And I can't swear, that's bullcrap. The shifting of you internally is going to impact everything to do with your business. And it's going to be a really small investment by the time that you're done. It's that whole brick wall, make yourself a doorway to get to the things you want kind of concept.
Yeah.
But we don't learn that in typical business.
Not at
That
all.
work on your stuff if you expect any of that other stuff to work out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And I think like exactly what you're saying, it is so hard to put a price on it because I'm like, it's not just your business that shifts, it's like your whole life. Like everyone I speak to, even like months afterwards, they're like, things are still changing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the power of working with your subconscious. It's like we don't just make your business make you more money or get you more clients or feel easier. We literally shift your whole life and like, how do you put a price on that?
Well, when did we stop working together? February? March?
Right?
So March, April, May, June. 4 months later, and I'm still shifting things.
Yeah.
But it's so much more based in, I know I'm worth what I want, and I'm not going to waste my time with all this stuff over here that I feel like I should do or have to do or people are telling me to do. And you're on a much more direct path.
Yeah.
So I'm 4 months into this
Yeah.
magnificence, and I'm still shifting things
Yeah.
dramatically. We're not talking about these little itty bitty, like, oh, that's cool how that happened. We're talking life altering, holy bleep balls moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to try.
It's okay. You can swear on here. We
I
don't
think
mind.
not change in working with Kim.
What do you feel like that makes possible for you now?
I mean, it gave me access to actually designing and manifesting what I want. And that's, I mean, I didn't know that's what I wanted when I signed up with you. It started with I just wanted to feel good in my own skin. But you feel good in your own skin, then you see all the ways that aren't aligned or all the ways that you settled or did things that weren't really jiving with you, and it's inevitable, then that's all going to shift after that. So I did not go into it thinking, oh, I want to redo my entire business, my entire life. And you know what? I'm going to prep myself for pneumonia and cancer with my recordings. Like, none of that. But I do believe that when we work at such a deep level, and the second that switch goes on, it's oversimplifying it, but once the switch goes on, that we're worthy of whatever the hell we want, and we get to design whatever we want, then everything changes. And you know, I keep going back to the last 3 months, and that there's so much perceived struggle, but all of it has been, okay, but how do I want to design this moving forward? Because if this is going away, that's fine. It means it wasn't meant for me. And honestly, I don't even know if I really enjoyed that anymore, or at all, or ever. What do I want to replace that with? Ooh, that's exciting. Like, that is way more preferable to me to approach challenges or hard situations and having anxiety about it. I don't know if that answers your question. I got on
Yeah,
a tangent. Sorry.
absolutely. And if you could go back and give yourself any advice at the beginning before we work together, like what advice would that be?
So much. Why would you do this to me, Kim, to pick one thing? Go listen to all of Kim's recordings. No, I'm just kidding. But that too. Which one? Honestly, I probably tell myself that I'm the only one holding on to the anxiety,
Mm.
because that was the biggest breakthrough moment. Because I think anyone who experiences anxiety feels relatively victimized by it. And knowing that you're the one holding on to it, and that's not a judgment, you know, and I've known this, it's a self-protective mechanism. But if you can say, okay, if I'm the one holding on to it, how do I help myself release it? Like, now you're talking about something that's going to shift things.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, go listen to Elkin's recordings.
It's so true though. Like it's like I have done so much RTT on myself and I never really directly chose to work on anxiety, even though I experienced like anxiety a lot. Like I used to have really bad social anxiety, but I just was so used to living with it that I never really thought of it to be something to go and work on, because you know how when you're just used to something being there, you don't imagine how it could be different.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just as a byproduct of doing RTT sessions on other things, that anxiety was removed. And I was like, wow, I feel like I see the world through completely different glasses now. And I never even thought it could look like this. And I think that's another benefit of doing RTT is like, even though you go in intending to work on this one thing, sometimes something else comes out that also needed to be worked upon. Because I think you can't change one thing without changing other things in your mind as well. So you just reaping the benefits in all sorts of ways that you didn't expect.
And you brought up a really good point too, that it makes space for something else. And I think that's the power of anytime we're doing self work, that if we are able to courageously look at something, because there's a level of courage that comes with, look, I was so nervous for our anxiety session. Like you guys, she said in the pre-session, so the one before the actual hypnosis session, okay, let's work on the anxiety. I like sweaty armpits, sweaty hands. And that whole day I was telling my husband, I'm actually like a little worried about this. Like, what is she going to dig up? What am I going to feel like? Am I going to be in the fetal position? Like, I was nervous. I trusted you at that point, which is the only reason I went through with it. But when you do that, you get to the other side of it and all this space is created. Like that's why you get to fill it with the things that you want,
Yeah.
instead of trying to just force things in. I don't know if I'm making sense. It's just a whole magical process.
It totally makes sense. And I think it's you're so not alone in that, because I think a lot of the time people, especially if they've had really big things happen to them in the past, it's really easy for people to be scared to go into the sessions because they're like, I don't relive what happened. Like I'm scared to go back there. I'm scared what's going to happen. And I always tell people we're not reliving it. We're just reviewing it. Like there's things we can do to make it so you're almost even more removed from the scene. It's like you're watching and you don't, and the thing is you've already lived it and you survived and you're here today. So us going back and looking at it is going to be the thing that releases it. And if people can just find the courage to just do that for like a relatively short amount of time, it's going to change how the whole rest of their whole life is. So it's like it's a little bit of pain for a lot of reward.
You know, I wouldn't even, once I was in the session, once we move the conscious mind out of the way, I wouldn't even say it's a little bit of pain. Like, and that's the cool part about working with your subconscious. You know, it's going to look at memories, but the key there is look at it, not experience it.
Yeah.
So I had me go back to what, 3 or 4 different times in my life. I can't, one we did 4, but I don't remember if it was that one. And it's very observational, and the conscious mind is out of it, so you're not having these emotional reactions to it. And I do think there was a couple moments I cried, but it wasn't like agonizing. And it's because you're looking, oh yeah, this happened, this planted this is what this created. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the next. It's just so freaking, like, how many times did we start a session and just talk about RTT for like 20 minutes?
It's like, it's hard to explain it to someone who has never experienced it. It's
Mhm.
like you experience it to even understand. Like I can explain it to people until I'm blue in the face. It's still never gonna convey in words like what it's like to experience it.
Although you do pretty good.
Oh,
And
thank you.
is like ground in my brain. I know you said you don't do that, but you have full permission should you ever decide to take up tinkering.
I love that. Well, if anyone is curious about 90-day alignment accelerator, they can hop on the web. Oh my God, losing the words. They can hop on the wait list, and the link is like bit.ly/alignment accelerator, or the link is in my bio if you're on Instagram. And thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for letting me talk about it. I talk about this all the time to anyone who listens, so thank you for letting me talk about it more.
Well, I will talk to you soon, but I will let you go for now.
Thank you.
Bye.